Okay, so in this video we've got two pieces of film. We've got them properly lined up. We've got sound that we like on the main track here. And so now we can talk about just a couple of basic things to do with cutting in and out of this. So first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and right click on my second film there and say split clip. Okay, so that's really going to be sort of the main function, the main way that we maneuver things. And so again, iMovie has got that main timeline, main track there, and then you're overlaying the second track. And so the second track is going to take precedence anytime it's there. So if you don't want it there, if you want to see the main track, you've got to open a window there. So that's what that splitting is, and then basically once you open that up, you can see you go from there to the other shot. And that's basically just going back and forth. And so anytime you want to keep doing it, you just split the clip, move it over. And so again, when you get this little icon here, usually in the middle of your frame, you are trimming. All you're doing is trimming. You're not moving, and you really want to be careful not to click on it and actually move the whole thing, because then that'll get it out of line. So if you're just trimming, you want to make sure you've got it right on the edge and you're moving it back and forth. Okay. So then the other thing that we want to do is, or when we look at, is how to transition, right? So sometimes you may want just that hard cut, but most of the time it's a lot nicer to kind of go in and out smoothly. So here, iMovie gives us this little tiny ball at the corner there. And if you just pull that in, that's what's going to define your transition. And so usually I like it at about a second, which is what that is. The one there represents 1 second. And it actually automatically does it on the back end too. In fact, I don't think you can actually do one or the other, unfortunately. Sometimes you want to, but it automatically does it on both ends, which most of the time is nice, saves you time. So just be careful. We had, in our earlier video, we had popped up this timing frame, so that button is still there. That's a timing thing. We don't, at this point, want to touch that. We just want to touch this transition guy. And so now you can see that's going to bring us softly, right? Softly coming in and out. And that'll stay there even if I continue to trim or expand my clip. So then the other thing that we can do is play with the image itself. So if I click within this guy, I can go to, so similar to images, you've got options for cutaway versus split screen and all that, which we won't get into here. But if you go over to the crop tool, most of the time we're just going to have fit, or in this case, crop to fill is really going to do. Crop to fill is going to allow us to zoom in if we want to. So if we go to crop to fill, we can bring it in, and we can say, okay, I just want this shot now. And so that made it a closer up shot. Okay, and we can also, even with video, we can still do this Ken Burns thing that we've done with still images before. Sometimes, I don't know, that can be a little weird in this sort of setting, but you can do it. So you can see here it switches in, and now slowly over time it's moving. Again, whether that's desirable or not sure, but that is available. But that crop to fill is nice, and you can, you've only got 2 shots here, but if we're shooting at 1080p and we're exporting at 720p, and we're going through YouTube anyways, quality is like, the image quality is not like gonna translate super well all the way anyway. So we can, sort of take some liberties with cutting in shots if we want to. So that's another thing we can do with our images. And then finally, as far as actually just cutting, what we can do here in the main timeline is a similar split, and again a split. And now what we would do is delete this. And so when we delete out of the main timeline, that actually pushes everything over. So you should see still the relative distance between these two clips. That should stay the same because this little line means they're attached. And so once I delete that, everything shifts over. And so now we've got a hard cut from here to here. You can see it's a hard cut. So we could, if we wanted to, we could add a transition. We could pull in a transition, maybe make it super fast, like half a second. And it would just go real quick into that. Or if it was smooth enough, we could just let that be. Or usually my favorite thing to do would be to use a cut as an opportunity to go from the main track to the secondary track, or vice versa. And so, yeah, so that usually can be a good time to do that. You can actually get into a little bit of trouble with it, because you can see with the transition, it doesn't actually start kicking over until a little bit later. But the way that you kind of mitigate against that is just try to get that as far over as possible. Sometimes you kind of need to zoom in a little bit to make sure we're going over as far as we can. So, so that's another thing to do on that. And I think that is about it. Oh, except I guess I can mention too, if you are cutting across a separate sound, if the sound was split out, I would want to make sure I cut both the audio and the visual at the same exact points, and then once I delete the video portion, then we would be good to go. So that is cutting and in the video, and again, you can use the scrub features, you can use zoom features to really get in the detail that you want.